Hello, dear student. Welcome to another lesson in Applied Linguistics. In today's lesson, we will be talking about interlanguage. In the 1970s, a member of researchers drew attention to the fact that the errors L2 learners produced were not random, but reflected a systematic knowledge of the L2. Okay, so in 1970s, some researchers draw attention to the fact that errors, okay, that L2 learners produce, okay, they are not random, but reflect the systematic knowledge of the L2, okay. So you make mistakes in L2 learners when you learn another language, you make mistakes, but these mistakes they reflect the system of the language you are learning. Okay, these errors are not random. The notion of interlanguage has been central to the development of the field of research on second language acquisition. The term interlanguage was introduced by the American linguist Seneca to refer to the linguistic system evidenced when an adult second language learner attempts to express meaning in the language being learned. Okay, so this interlanguage it was introduced by Seneca to account for uh, the linguistic system evidence when an adult learn. Okay, so when you're learning, when an adult learns another language, second language, attempts to express meaning. Okay, in the language being learned, they make some errors. Okay, some mistakes. These these what is called interlanguage. Okay, so it's interlanguage. It's not fully the language that you are learning. It's not fully your second language, and it's not your mother tongue. So it's in between. Okay, the interlanguage is viewed as a separate linguistic system, clearly different from both the learner's native language and the target language being learned, but linked. This is what I have just talked about. That interlanguage, it's a system. Okay, it's linguistic system. It's a certain of language that is in between. It's not exactly your mother tongue, and not exactly the language, your second language that you are learning. A central characteristic of any interlanguage is that it fossilizes. This means that it ceases to develop a full identity with the target language. Thus, an adult second language learner never achieves a level of facility in the use of the target language compared to that achieved by any child acquiring their native language. So the problem is that this interlanguage fossilizes in the sense that it becomes an error, and it is internalized that way, and it is in your mind. So you cannot it doesn't fully develop. It's not exactly so when you learn another language and then you make some errors, these errors stick to you, so you don't get rid of them. That's interlanguage, of course. So the adults, when an adult second language learner, they don't achieve the level of facility. They don't achieve a level of fluency, or let's say just fluency, because you can in fact achieve the level of accuracy, but fluency is questionable in the target language in comparison to the what a child acquires in their native language. So fossilization is the process of freezing. So the language freezes, okay, of the transition. The process of freezing of the transition between L1 and L2, and is regarded as the final stage of interlanguage development. Okay, so when you learn another language, so some errors of that language, so that's interlanguage, it fossilizes, okay, and it does not fully develop. It doesn't become L2. Doesn't become L2 because you're learning L2. So it fossilizes and it stays an interlanguage, okay, and that's it. So interlanguage is also called by Coda 1971 idiosyncratic dialect. It's a certain of a dialect that is idiosyncratic. He asserts that this dialect is regular, systematic, and meaningful. So interlanguage here, it's systematic, as we have seen before, earlier in this video. It is systematic in the sense that the errors you make they reflect the system of the language of L2 language. It's meaningful, so it's not meaning those errors or that system of language that you produce is not meaningless. So it communicates in meaning. It's language, okay? So it's language. So it's like any other regular languages, okay? NIMSA 1971 termed it approximate system. Okay, it's an approximation of L2. So when you learn English, it's not exactly English, for example. It's an approximation of English. Okay, it's your own English that is, of course, that reflects the system of English, but there are some errors, some problems of fluency, some problems of accuracy, etc. that is different from English. Okay, so it's not fully L2, another language, but it's approximation. Okay, as I have been saying, NIMSA 1971 termed it a approximative system to identify a learner's linguistic system which is distinct from his mother tongue and the target language he is attempting to learn. So it's kind of distinct, this approximation of system of L2. Okay, it's different from your mother tongue and different from your target language. J.C. Richards gives it the name transitional competence since it refers to the learner's competence at a particular time. Okay, so when you're learning a language in the process of mastering, okay, your second language, you have this transitional competence. That's what is interlanguage. Okay, so competence which is transitional. It's not complete yet. Okay, it may reach completion, but it may not also. So you don't know. Okay, depends. If you're like we talked earlier in other videos, if you're a child, so in early age they reach the competence of another language, the native like competence. Okay, and if you are an adult, so we don't reach the competence for native speaker. So you have an approximation of L2. There is a crucial difference between child native language acquisition and adult second language acquisition. Children always succeed in completely acquiring their native language, but adults very rarely succeed in completely acquiring a second language. This is exactly the idea that I have been trying to explain to you since the beginning of this video, that native language acquisition is different from second language acquisition. So an adult cannot completely reach the competence of another language, but a child can. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed and learned from this video. See you in the next one.